I watched a movie on Netflix, y'all, that generally made me uncomfortable. Not in a scary or graphic way, but in a way that stayed with me even longer after the movie ended. It wasn't the violence. It wasn't the storyline. It was the questions. It forced me to ask myself, especially as a parent. And by the end of the movie, I realized that it wasn't even about the plot. It was about guilt, grief, and what happens when someone finds out too late that their child is hurting. So I want to talk about why this movie made me feel uncomfortable and what it made me reflect on. Hey y'all, I'm James Said Just Call Me Jamie. Welcome back to another video. Hey y'all, happy Monday. Now, look, as you can see by the title, I want to talk about this movie that's going around on Netflix. Everybody is talking about this movie. I watched this movie last night, and when I said, y'all, this movie was so good. And I don't know if you upload, I will show you what the movie looks like. It's called His and Hers. And I think it is a good movie for you guys to really check out. But enough about me. Let's go ahead and get into it. I'm not going to spoil anything right away, but I do want to give context. This movie deals with bullying, motherhood, and silence. Those 4 things I pointed out to y'all. And this is the kind of silence that lives inside families. What makes it heavy is how realistic it feels, because it centers around stuff that happens too often. A child going through trauma and never telling their parent, and a parent believing that everything is okay until it isn't. Now, from this point forward, I will be talking about major plot points, including the ending. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you might want to pause here and go watch the movie and then come back to this video. Now, one of the most disturbing things is when a mother finds out the truth. Her daughter never told her that she was being bullied or that she was SA'd. She never told her that she was the R word. We just gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna spell it out. And the mother only finds out years later after watching tapes, because her daughter had disappeared, because her daughter went through some trauma, well, more than one trauma of her own. And in those tapes, she's seen everything that she missed. The targeting, the humiliation, the assault. And that moment hit me hard, because once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. You realize that your child was suffering in silence, and you weren't there to protect them. And I think that's where the guilt begins. But the story doesn't stop there, y'all. It does not stop there. As the daughter gets older, gets married, and then she experiences a loss of her own. And she does that by leaving the child with her mother. Because see, in the beginning, she was already uncomfortable and didn't really want to leave the child with the mother because she was feeling like the child was fussy. So she left the child with the mother. The mother laid the child down. And you know how sometimes when children lay down, they're not supposed to either be on their stomach when they're real young, and things could happen and a child could pass away in their sleep. And even though it wasn't intentional, when they left the child with the grandmother and the grandmother laid her down, and when they came back, the child had passed away. It wasn't intentional by the mother. That loss becomes another weight on that parent, because not only did you lose what happened to you in high school, now you got this child that you experiencing another loss. If y'all get where I'm going at with this. So now the mother is living with 2 unbearable realities. And this is the daughter and the mother. So the daughter got what happened to her in high school, and then now she loses a child. And now the mother is experiencing a loss because after the child passed away, she ran off. She didn't know where her child was. And also she felt the guilt of, this is my fault, what happened to my grandbaby. So it's a lot going on in this movie. And when her daughter was nowhere to be found, the mother started watching tapes that she found of her daughter to remember her daughter, and came to one last tape where the tape showed what her daughter had experienced. So now the mother is feeling like, hey, I didn't protect my daughter when she was young, and she was present during another unimaginable loss later in life. And that kind of grief just doesn't disappear. It piles up. So it hit a nerve with the mother. So when the mother, like I told y'all, when she sees those tapes, I don't think that she's just reacting to the RAPE, the R. I think she's reacting to years of guilt, to grief, to the feeling that she failed her child more than once. And this is where the movie made me really feel uncomfortable, because it asks a hard question. When someone feels like they owe their child something, does that justify extreme actions? At what point does guilt turn into justification? At what point does love become distorted by trauma? And where is the line between accountability and losing yourself to revenge? And this is where I'm at with it. I don't think that the movie wants us to agree with the mother. I don't think that the movie wants us to condone her either. I think it wants us to sit in discomfort with unresolved pain, because the trauma goes unspoken for years. It doesn't disappear. It mutates. And when people act from guilt instead of healing, they can convince themselves that harm is love. And understanding someone's pain doesn't mean excusing their actions. And that's the tension that the movie leaves you with. This movie made me reflect deeply. You hear me? Like, for real, for real. What happens when a mother finds out too late, or a parent finds out too late? What responsibility do we carry to notice the quiet suffering around us? And how do we support our children or the people we love in a way that trauma doesn't define their future? I'm genuinely curious about how other people saw this. And if you watch this movie, I definitely want to hear your perspective of it. And if you haven't, watch it and come back to this conversation. Now, before I go, I will tell you this, and I think I told y'all this before. You don't know what a parent is capable of when something happens to their child. You don't know that. That quiet person, you know, might become the most vengeful, crazy person you might meet. You can't play with everybody, children, because not everybody play like that, and not everybody in that mindset. Now, when it comes to my children, I don't know what I'm capable of, because at the end of the day, I would want my revenge, but I also would have to think that, oh, if I get caught, what if I get caught and I don't get to see my children again for the rest of my life? You got to think about it like that. Of course, any parent would want their revenge. Trust me, they would want their revenge. But there is a time and place for everything. And this wasn't an easy watch, but it was a necessary watch. And it reminded me of how powerful silence can be, for the better or for the worse. And I just want to tell y'all, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.